All right, well, good afternoon. My name is Chris Taylor. I'm the Director of Large Customer Services here at PHI. I do want to be respectful of folks' time. It's 2:03. I do realize that folks are still joining, but we'll go ahead and get started. I did want to just do a quick check to make sure folks were able to see the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes.
Great.
Yep.
Thanks, Rich. Great. Thanks, Rich. All right, great. Well, again, my name is Chris Taylor. I'm the Director of Large Customer Services here at PHI. Our service territories are Pepco, Delmarva Power, and Atlantic City Electric. We're part of the broader company Exelon, and so our sister utilities include BGE, PECO, and ComEd. We actually occasionally host customer collaborative meetings such as this one today to share information about topics and trends that we're seeing in the industry. So earlier this year, we actually hosted a virtual meeting about solar panels. And then today we're going to be focusing in on electric vehicles. So the account management team really has worked with many customers as they're considering converting their vehicles to electric. So today's webinar is going to be informational in nature, really intended to provide information that might help you in your planning process. So on the call today, you have many of the account management team members from ACE, Delmarva Power, and Pepco. So those managers are James Pringle, Rich Aiello, Fernita Coverdale, and Robin Kemp. We actually also have several members from our distribution engineering customer design teams. So thank you to Bill Saracino, Ranjit Saki, and Chitali Parikh, and others for joining the call today. And then we also do have members from across the business that will be presenting during the slides. So they'll actually be identifying themselves as we get to each section. So the plan of today's discussion is we're going to give a broad overview of the policies that we're seeing in New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and DC. And then we'll then jump into how we go about planning our system to meet customer demands. And then from there, we'll jump into really planning for electric vehicles, both from how we've approached it with our fleet and then how a customer might approach it as they're planning out their electric vehicle program. We'll also talk through our current programs that are being offered throughout our service territories, and then we'll do a quick demonstration of a new tool that we have on our website that's a fleet calculator tool. And then lastly, we'll close it out with questions. So we will be distributing the PowerPoint presentation after the meeting. So if there's questions, we're happy to go another level deeper with you through the account management team. We do ask that folks stay on mute during the call as much as you can until there's questions. We are trying to record the meeting today so that folks can go back to it in case they wanted to go back to a certain point in the presentation. So I do want to provide awareness that we are recording the call today as well. But before we start into the meeting, I just wanted to thank you for spending an hour out of your day with us. It definitely means a lot. We're all juggling a lot of different priorities. So just want to say thank you for spending time with us today. Then with that, I'll hand it over to Eric Moberg. Eric?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Chris. And as Chris said, I appreciate everyone making time to hear what our company is doing in terms of electric vehicles, electric vehicle supply equipment. I wanted to just quickly spend a few minutes on our policy and strategy overview. Just take a few minutes to highlight key policy impacting our regions and the strategy that PHI takes to implement and bring programs and solutions to you as our customers. And to start on that, and Chris, I'm not sure if I'm seeing the slides move, but I could be off base here. You on the fourth one?
Yes, the jurisdictional mandates that support PHI's pursuit.
Okay, thank you. So this provides a high-level snapshot of all of the policy, or not all of it, but a lot of the policy across our region and the impacts it has from a decarbonization perspective. I think while the timing and the specific requirements vary across each, they'll all have impacts on how your businesses ultimately operate. Given the focus of this presentation is on electric vehicles, I'll spend a couple seconds here on the various policies across from an electric vehicle goal perspective. In Maryland and Jersey, you'll see the number of vehicles Those states are vying to have on the road by 2025, 300,000 or more. In Delaware, I'm looking to have 17,000 zero-emission vehicles sold annually by the year 2030. And then in DC, I'm seeking to have all 25% of all all registered cars be EV by 2030. And then just 15 years later, all vehicles operating or registered in the district to be electric or zero emission. So a lot of very aggressive goals that we as Pepco, Delmarva Power, and Atlantic City Electric want to put programs forward to help your businesses achieve and meet these mandates across our jurisdictions. In addition to what you're seeing here, our states and cities are all very active in what programs and policy they do put out for both you as a customer, but also us as a utility to support these decarbonization goals across our regions. In DC, we are awaiting a decision on our multi-year plan that has a number of different EV programs and implications embedded within it. In Maryland, we recently just received the order to implement our phase 2 electric vehicle programs, which we're very excited about and look forward to bringing those to our Maryland customers sometime next year. In Jersey, we're awaiting a medium and heavy duty filing or fleet filing to support larger vehicles classes within the state of Jersey. And then in Delaware, there's bills recently signed to support and incentivize both electric vehicles, but also electric vehicle supply equipment. So while this is active, there's a lot that's also moving and coming in to support electric vehicle deployment in the regions. Chris, you want to jump to the next one? So shifting from policy and just looking at from a transportation electrification perspective, what PHI is doing to support all electrification work that will impact all of our regions. So this is the framework that we operate within. The 6 key elements are make ready, customer education and assistance, equitable, affordable access, load flexibility, rate design, and grants. These collectively make up what we call our strategic planning initiatives and the way that we move from policy on the front end and a lot of what we just showcased to our programs on the back end. So I won't go into too much detail, but just understand that this is what kind of the framework that we utilize with customer input to ensure that we are taking and putting programs forward that will ultimately benefit our customers with you all here on the call as our largest customers. I think with that, I will pause and pass it over to Chris Budzinski, who will take it from, to Will Davis on system planning.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Will?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Will Davis. I'm the manager for regional capacity planning for the District of Columbia. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what we do in distribution planning. So in distribution planning, we make informed decisions for critical investments to maintain the safety and reliability of the grid by performing both short and long-term forecasting. We also incorporate several advanced analytics and tools, and we're always looking to evolve our forecasting methods to adopt to industry best practices. Also in planning, we evaluate and ensure the safe and reliability of interconnection of DERs on our system. We also have several hosting capacity maps and other public-facing tools that are available to the public. And we're looking for new approaches to always integrate new technologies and our models to enable more DER penetration on our system. As far as customers, we always looking for collaboration with customers to provide grid enablement. We looking for strategic partnerships to evaluate and accommodate new technologies, DER electrification interconnection evaluations, and provide circuit capacities. Next slide, please. So in capacity planning, we look at it as capacity forecasting, as load forecasting, and reliability. For load forecasting, we incorporate numerous data sources to project the load growth on feeders and substations. And reliability forecasting, we look at the health of assets, configuration for resiliency, and the maintenance and replacement strategy of our infrastructure. So they both kind of follow the same path where we go through a system assessment, look for solutions development, and then implement those solutions that we developed. So we used several different tools for our system assessment to look at load forecasting conditions to identify constraints or the aging infrastructure of our equipment on our system. From that, we look at the different options that are developed, basically load transfers, maybe new substations, replacing some old equipment, and then after that, we just implement it. So that's where we actually take everything to construction, make sure we have formal approvals, and look for contracting for solutions. Any questions for? If none, I'll turn it back over to, I think it's Chris.
That's correct. Yep. Thank you very much, Will. And so we'll hand it over to Chris Bisgency. And really for the capacity planning for EVs, it's so important for us to understand what's being considered for customer electric vehicle supply equipment, especially if it's for fleets and larger installations, as we try to plan our system to meet customer needs. So Chris is going to start outlining some of our tenets about how we approach EVs from our fleet perspective, but then also the customer journey as well. So Chris, I'll hand it to you.
Yep. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm Chris Budzinski. I'm Director of Clean Energy Initiatives at Exelon. I oversee all of our transportation electrification programs across our opcos, including PHI. So what I want to share with you guys today is that, on this slide, you can see we have a number of activities and efforts underway within Exelon in support of fleet electrification. Some of these efforts are internal facing, some are external facing, with our customers and other players in the fleet electrification ecosystem. But just to highlight a few for this group, and I'll talk about this first one a little bit more on the next slide, which we have a goal at Exelon to electrify 30% of our utility fleet vehicles by 2025, and then getting to 50% of those fleet vehicles by 2030. We're using this in really two ways. One is we are using it to support Exelon's Path to Clean goal, which is to get to net zero emissions, scope 1, scope 2 emissions by 2050. But probably more importantly, we're using this to learn and go through the process so that we can help inform our customers who are looking to electrify their fleet. Some of the things that we have run into, some of the pain points and some of the learnings that we've gained, through our own conversion of our fleet. We are actively involved in a number of organizations external to Exelon that support clean transportation. We're working with OEMs and other players in the ecosystem to really move this market transformation forward on a number of different levels. And then we have customer-facing programs that are focused on a number of different areas in transportation, from personal light-duty vehicles to fleet vehicles to medium and heavy-duty vehicles. And I think Josh is going to touch on that here in a couple of the slides. But I think fundamentally what we've tried to do at Exelon as it relates to fleet electrification is identify areas where we can reduce barriers to adoption or constraints to adoption and accelerate the adoption. So turning to the next slide, I'll just cover this at a very high level, and I touched on it before. Our work that we're doing internally to electrify our fleet supports a number of our objectives, one from an operational perspective and a GHG emission perspective. Within Exelon, that does benefit us, and it also benefits our customers and communities. We're also using this as an opportunity to learn and help develop new programs related to fleet electrification, so that we can kind of reduce some of those barriers to adoption for our customers. And then the last slide I really want to touch on here is just kind of a little bit of an insight around that journey that we're on right now to electrify 50% of our fleet by 2030. I will tell you that it really started out as a fleet electrification exercise, but it has really kind of grown over time into being an important contributor to our emission reduction goals as Exelon, but then also from a customer learning perspective. And I think what's helped us out with this is that we've put together a robust internal structure that involves a lot of different areas within Exelon to support this initiative. But I think importantly, as we set out on this, we started with some key guiding principles that are important to think through. We wanted to maintain our operational integrity. We as the utility need to keep the lights on and the gas flowing 24/7. we can't sacrifice that in any way, shape, or form. And moving to electric vehicles, as many of you may know, does present some challenges. We're maintaining, financial prudency as we go through this exercise. And again, I've mentioned a couple of different times, this is meant to support our customer work too. And I think what I would say is the evolution that we've seen and where we are in the cycle today is we've started to electrify our fleet. We're at about 20% today. So we're well on our way to that goal. And what we're trying to do now is determine what does this look like at scale from an operational perspective, from an infrastructure perspective, and then how do we transition this to being just business as usual for our operating companies, our fleet managers, rather than a special project or a discrete project within Exelon. So we're looking at a number of things as to how we get this to scale, and several important aspects of that in terms of how do we have the right infrastructure, the resiliency around that infrastructure, again, to ensure that we can deliver, gas and electricity 24/7. So that's kind of where the focus of this team is at this point. I will say the last thing here around this, what I think has led to our success or been a big key to our success, is that we have buy-in from all levels of the organization. And it starts at the top of Exelon saying we are committed to this goal and to this effort. And that is cascaded down throughout the entire organization. And that, again, as I said, has been a key to our success in this. I think this is one more slide I think I had, or maybe two more slides, Chris. Just here on 13, this is a study that was done by Gladstein. We're happy to share that study with the folks on the phone. Exelon was a sponsor of that. It gives a lot of good insight into the market transformation, moving to fleet electrification for fleet owners and operators. There's a lot of good data and a lot of good information in that report, and it's really a good resource for folks who are either just starting out on their journey or midway through or kind of towards the end of their journey. And then we have on slide 14, this is one of the customer-facing tools that we have. It's called our EV Roadmap. This really kind of lays out the process that a customer would need to go to in terms of working with the utility. The timelines that we provide are really high level. It's going to be different at each depot or each situation, just given the types of infrastructure that are needed and the scale of the electrification that's required by the customer. And I think what I would say the key takeaways for me is that when you start this journey, look at it at scale, kind of what is the end state that you're trying to get to, because it will help make it more efficient and more cost effective as you go through that journey if you've got the end state or a North Star in mind. The other thing I'll leave you with that is really, really important is engage early and often with your utility as you go through this journey. As I like to say, become BFFs with your utility as you're going through your fleet electrification journey. So with that, Chris, I think I'm going to turn it over to Josh to talk about some of the programs.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. Josh, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris and Chris. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for being on to talk to us today. My name's Josh Caterett. I am a Senior Business Program Manager on the PHI Transportation Electrification team. I focus primarily on Maryland and Delaware. My team, along with our trusted implementation vendors, manage these pilots and programs. So we'll keep it on this slide, and then we'll move to the other slide as soon as I'm done talking through some of these points. You heard me refer to my team as the Transportation Electrification team and not the EV team. And it's not all about the electric vehicles, but it's about the innovations, technologies, rate options, funding opportunities, make-ready and managed charging programs, et cetera, that allow electric vehicles to be more affordable and accessible to our customers, while also allowing us to manage the expected load growth on our grid. These programs range from the tried and true rebates to an innovative smart charge management pilot. Over the next few years, you will begin to see an evolution in the programs we offer. We seek to shift to more fleet and medium to heavy duty programs, more innovative rates, more equitable program designs, more managed charging, and then learnings from our Maryland public charging network. All new programs and pilots will point to one or more pieces of the strategic framework Eric showed earlier. You also heard Eric mention some of the current happenings, filings, and orders in our region that will push these new programs. Then, of course, partnerships and conversations like this that we're having today help inform us of future program design. One note I want to make is if you're installing chargers but not participating in one of these programs, my team may not get involved. You may only work with your typical contacts and new business at PHI. But we are always available, the transportation electrification team, to answer any questions you may have. More information on these programs can be found through any of our utility websites. Once you go to our website, delmarva.com, for example, click on Smart Grid on the top banner, and then click on Electric Vehicle Programs. You can also navigate there to register your vehicle link to register your EV with us. This can help us with education and outreach of current and future programs. So just on this slide, just for the audience here, highlighting our Maryland commercial offerings. This is a three-piecer, fleet assessments, because we know that our commercial customers and have different requirements, different fleet requirements, and we want to be able to assist in assessing your needs. Also make ready incentives, and lastly, incentives on the chargers. So just wanted to call that out. That is a more recent program. Next slide, Chris. And then here we kind of bunched up Delaware, DC, and New Jersey. So you can see there's not really a lot going on in Delaware. We have a pilot going on and a residential rate offering. Point out the commercial offerings in DC. And then in New Jersey, we have some commercial offerings too, ranging from make ready and rebate programs for fleets and chargers. So use these two slides as references. Again, to learn more, go to our website, click on Smart Grid at the top banner, and then click on Electric Vehicle Programs. Happy to answer anybody's questions on any of these at the end of the presentation. Thanks, Chris. Back to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris, or Josh. And then we actually are bringing in another Chris to the conversation. So Chris is going to go over the fleet calculator tool. This is a live demonstration from his computer. So I'm going to stop sharing and hand it to Chris for sharing on his computer.
Great, thank you. I'm Chris Giga. I'm product owner in our large customer services managed energy use program. Our team's goal is to organize information that can help customers make decisions around solar, electric vehicles, rates, essentially alternative energy opportunities. We designed this tool I'm going to share briefly. The goal was to give a rough directional estimate of what your fleet would need to look like to meet your business needs. Specifically, what we're going to use this tool is to estimate how long you would need to charge your fleet for, given your charging infrastructure. So I will start sharing screen. This tool currently is only available for Pepco, but by the end of the year, it should be available at all OpCos. So if you find yourself on the Pepco website or your OpCo website, you go to your large customer services page, and then there's the commercial vehicle electrification opportunities tab here. And this is the site we just built out. It starts out with some information about who you need to get involved, a little bit of the EV roadmap. It has a lot of that information there. This is some information about different EVs and some operational considerations. We have some information about the chargers or the commercial vehicles. And at the very bottom of the page, we have this battery fleet capacity calculator. So here you'll enter in what you project your business will need. So let's say I'm a small electrician company. I need 4 trucks that I'm planning on electrifying. I'll get my battery capacity. And then I can say like, well, if I install a series of 3-phase chargers, I just get 2 of them. I can charge my fleet within 6 to 16 hours. Again, that's a pretty broad range, but it helps give a directional idea of what it looks like. Here you can make a decision like, yeah, I can do this overnight, but if if I had a better charger, I could do it over lunch breaks. Yeah, the tool is supposed to be a high level general direction on what your charging should look like. Yeah, and please feel free to ask any questions about this. Hearing nothing, I'll hand it back.
Great. Well, thank you again, Chris. So at this point, we're just trying to set the stage in terms of tools that are available for customers, be it the playbook, the fleet playbook that Chris referenced, some reports that are available, and then also the actual calculator that's online as well. I know that's a lot to process as you're starting to plan for potentially EVs within your operations. So we wanted to just be helpful in terms of planning. So at this point, we welcome any questions that folks might have. Feel free to come off mute and ask your questions. Then members of our team will answer your questions that you might have to the best of our ability. Looks like Steve.
Yeah, Steve Zellner here from the Navy. One of the things that we just got within probably the last 6 months is a directive that all buildings that are being modernized or new buildings need to be total electric. Have you guys heard anything about that as far as DOD and that order or directive?
Yep, Steve, we have in terms of executive orders, through GSA. It's something that we have been studying in terms of impact to our system from a capacity planning perspective. I think there's from what we're hearing, at least in the GSA National Capital Region, efforts, for example, at the Reagan building, as they are trying to, convert their buildings to electric and a number of other facilities. And, from us, we're very interested in that. And, traditionally we are a summer peaking system, but when you go to an all electric building, especially commercial buildings, that may push us to be a winter peaking, grid, especially for those buildings. So it's something that we're definitely tracking very closely. Wanting to partner with individuals such as you as that transformation takes place. Will or anybody from engineering or from the team would like to add on to that?
And Chris, I think you covered it as pretty well there. The only thing we ask is if your building's getting electrified, the earlier we know, the better as far as forecasting our loads for planning. That's what we ask.
Great, thanks for the question, Steve. Looks like Joshua.
Hey, how you doing? Joshua from the Washington Aqueduct, Army Corps of Engineers. I heard a rumor through a couple other agencies that Petco is going to start doing sub. Man, how did they word that? Sub grids. So, like my organization will have a direct power straight to your facility. Is that true or no?
Yeah, Joshua, thanks for the question. And there's a lot to consider there. I'll start, and then others feel free to join in. Especially Chaitali or James. But I think for some customers, their load might require them to be, have a dedicated feed or an express feed. So that might be a high voltage service. Other customers, and that's something that's, typical, at least, for sure in the Pepco region. Other customers we are seeing consider microgrids to support their operations. So that's typically a combination of on-site generation, batteries, controller, and then there's a combination of on-site generation that will allow the customer to be islanded, and then at times also be connected to the grid. So there are customers that have done that. I think a great example of that, and those folks might be on the line, is the Brookville Bus Depot in Montgomery County. There's a microgrid that went live. I think Tina was at last year or the year before. And then Gallaudet University is also doing a microgrid for their campus operation. So those are typically single customers that are doing microgrids for the facility itself. And those projects are typically one that we will try to be very close with customers as they're planning those types of projects. We want to understand the interconnection, and the demands that will be for those types of projects, that we make sure we'll be able to support the timelines that the customers are suggesting. So that's a high level answer, and definitely welcome Chetali, James, Will,
Yeah.
or anybody else that wants to add to it.
Yeah, Chris. Good afternoon. This is James Pringle. Joshua, I know you guys have multiple facilities with the Collier, Little Falls, and others. So as Chris and Will stated, these are case by case. Feasibility studies may have to be performed, looked at what type of technologies that you're implementing. So it's very important that you reach out to your account manager as soon as you have these concepts or a project planned, so we can kind of sit down and kind of be an energy advisor to you and give you some guidance on what feeders that are currently serving your facility, if you need additional capacity, if you're looking for reliability. So these are things that we're looking to sit down and have a discussion with our customers.
Thank you so much for answering me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, hey, and this is Chitali Mehta. I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Chitali Mehta. I'm the senior manager here at distribution engineering for Pepco. So one of the work functions that we have is the distributed energy resources, where we work on different work streams from EV to net energy meters, solar, the CRAG, those type of requests that come through my department. But again, as James mentioned, that we can't just apply like a one-size-fits-all approach. So basically, your need could be a lot different than other customers' needs. So we definitely would like to kind of see your application, see what type of loading requirements that you have, and we work with the customer directly to help the customer come up with the best approach, the right approach for the job that you have out there.
Great. Thanks, Chetali. Appreciate it. Looks like the next question is from Lynn. G. Lynn. If you want to come off mute, you're welcome to ask your question.
So yes. So for customers that are interested in the microgrid, do you have any kind of program for them to tour or see an existing microgrid that's up and in operation?
Yeah, so we currently are working on a microgrid in Maryland for residential customers. That isn't one that is up and running, but there are customer microgrids that are up and running that have at times hosted other customers to come do tours. Joshua, maybe that's something that we can try to work with you and your account rep to explore those opportunities. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's Gregory talking on my computer.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Confusing me.
Does make sense.
Yeah, I think that might be Chai might be your account rep, but we'll follow up.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Yeah,
Ike, are
this
you
is
raising your hand to add in
yeah,
to
yeah,
that?
yeah, to ask questions. Yeah, thank you for recognizing me. Yeah, I have a question. So, have you guys had a um knowledge or impact when you have EV and solar on the same system, the same facility? How do you go around it? Because um, we want to prevent. I don't know where it's not possible to use the solar to be charging, doing your charging, or is there any issue that you see there? Did you understand my question?
Ike, I apologize. Is that for me?
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah. So you get into I appreciate you raising the question, and folks feel free to answer as well. I think for us, we always want to think through managed charging, and for us, trying to encourage off-peak charging. And so when you factor in solar, at times you have to see, when your charging is as it relates to the on-site generation. And so oftentimes it's managed charging programs that might help in those decisions. And so at least from a program design perspective, that's something that we always encourage is to, off-peak charging. Now, others feel free to jump in. Great. Lynn, I think you had your hand up. Do you still want to ask your question?
No, that was his question that
Oh,
he
okay.
forgot to take his hand down.
Oh, gotcha. Sounds good. Thank you. All right, we'll do one last call for questions.
Hey, Chris, there is one in the chat from Bobby Kirby with DGS. I can read it out.
Sure.
If a transformer is on a spot network, should we expect capacity challenges to EV interconnections? We come across these spot networks occasionally while developing solar PV.
Yeah. So, Will, Chitali, Ike. Yeah.
Great question. Great question. That would be something that we have to look into, based on the location of the EV charger and everything. So, great question.
So for folks that might not understand that from other areas, you want to maybe describe, Will, a spot network, just to educate as we are going through?
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah, so the spot network is basically that single customer that has several different feeders coming in to supply that same customer, that one customer. So
Great. So for DGS, I think that would be Michael Haywood. That's somebody that we can connect with you to follow up on as well. Mr. Yombrock.
So question is that we're in the process of installing a number of different EV chargers at sites. We're putting in or asking to put in a separate feeder or a separate transformer on each of the sites that are going to service just the EV chargers, because we have to separate the loads from the buildings from the EV because of the building energy performance standards. And we find that the EV charging that we're going to be putting at the facilities could skew the EUI of those facilities. So we're having to put in a separate account, a separate meter, or at least that's what we're asking to do. And we're working with Ike on that right now. We're getting our first couple of ones going through the process. So I don't think there's a way for us to get around that. We're open to any suggestions that anybody might have in order for us to do that.
Yeah. Now, thanks for the comment. Ike and Eric and others, feel free to jump in there.
I could throw this out there as a potential. I'm not sure if the legitimacy of it, but I know vehicle chargers have telematics and that information may suffice to backfeed and negate off of the EUI. Again, I'm not sure if the county will necessarily take that, but that could be worth a question in the event that obviously adding transformers adds significant cost to a number of these projects you're looking at.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we're looking at some sites where we're going to need almost 2 megawatts of load, an additional load on these sites. It's a whole lot different than the building load is. So the other thing is that we're still looking at the charge management system that we're going to try to incorporate to be able to help identify some of that. So it's kind of a work in process, but I mean, we're still learning as we're going along here.
Great. And thank you for the county and your leadership in this space and being very proactive and forward thinking in your projects. So thank you for that. Right. So I think we have answered the questions that I see. For sure, we want to continue the dialogue. And so if you heard something today that you want to follow up on, please feel free to reach out to your account manager, myself, or the key account support team. We did put in the chat the PowerPoint from today's presentation. So that's a resource that we'll have. And then we'll also follow up with a couple of things that were mentioned during the call, the Gladstein report, and then also links to the playbook as well. So with that, we'll call that end of call. Just thank you so much for your time today. We hope this meeting was helpful as we plan for future collaboratives and topics to bring to you. Your input on what might be of interest is also welcomed as well. So with that, we'll call it end of call. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.